I would tell you the story of an Odyssey, about a chosen leader who no one wanted and no one expected.
Tell me your story. Regardless of what I do next, there's something we cannot overlook. Seamus has the support of the Church of Light, and I do not.
Many within the Church are on our side, Duke Ivan. When the moment comes, they will be behind you.
I certainly hope so, Murizel, and I appreciate your efforts to rally them to our cause. But what of Elrath? So far he has been silent, but maybe that's because he's fine with the idea of Seamus sitting on the throne. What can I hope to achieve if the dragons have already ordained our fates?
No fate but what hand makes.
The Orc Kente is right, my lord. The dragon's ways are mysterious, and it is often difficult to grasp the full extent of their actions. I was wondering what kind of advice I could offer you, my lord, but I seem to recall an elven tale that would fit the matter at hand.
Rowena of Unicorn speaks highly of you, Lasir. I would hear your story.
Are my ladies and lords all familiar with the people we call the Shalden?
The Sea Elves.
Indeed, our seaborn cousins who wander the oceans of Ashen. I want to tell you the story of a young Shalden. To outsiders he was known as Wisloth, or simply Wis. Wisloth was the eldest son of a famous captain and great hero, Osrath Ilrian. Now, Osrath Ilrian was getting old, and intended to retire. It was no secret he would appoint Wis as his successor. Nobody had asked Wisloth what he wanted. If they had, they would have known he had no interest in taking his father's place. What place did he crave for himself, you ask? Well, Wisloth had not figured that out yet. And it seems the dragons had grown bored of waiting for him to make a choice. As all sea elves, Wis was an expert sailor and a great swimmer. But Shalasa was so angry that night that even he was struggling not to drown. The last thing he saw, before losing consciousness, was his ship being swallowed by the storm. How many days did Wisloth drift with only hunger and thirst as companions? One day, he woke up lying on the sands of an unknown shore. Rather than cursing the dragons, he was grateful to be alive. Silana and Shalasa had shown mercy. Curious to see where fate had landed him, Wisloth set out to explore. The first creature Wisloth came across was a lone unicorn, grazing under the cool shadows of the trees. To Wisloth's surprise, the majestic animal offered to become his mount. Where there are tame unicorns, there are often elves.
You know, this story is starting to sound somewhat familiar. Are there white tigers next?
There will be no tigers in this story, Duke Ivan, but I can promise you some surprises. Next, Wisloth came across a herd of twilight stags, moving silently through the forest. Wisloth decided to follow the stags, as they seemed to beckon him along. The stags led Wisloth and his mount to a small clearing. Pixies and spirits were dancing around a standing stone, half covered in moss and plants. Though he was a sea elf, Wisloth knew enough about the customs of the elves living on land to recognize a dragon line stone, marking an underground river of dragon blood, the source of all magic. If there were other elves nearby, then he might well find them at the convergence of the dragon lines, where the power would be strongest. Traveling from stone to stone, Wisloth eventually reached a stone circle. This was what Wisloth had been looking for. A nexus of the dragon lines. As he approached the monument, Wisloth noticed a figure sitting next to the largest stone, meditating. The woman, dressed in the robes of a druid, was probably not older than him, despite her silvery hair. She observed Wisloth as he dismounted, piercing him with her amber eyes. There was a pride and defiance in her gaze, but Wisloth also sensed something else. A deep, familiar loneliness.
You are not of my people.
My name is Wisloth. I was on a ship. I fell overboard during the storm, and I followed the dragon lines here.
You are a Sheldon. We haven't seen your kind this far north for many, many moons.
I don't want to burden you with my plight. Is there a port nearby? I've been walking for days.
I believe Felista did most of the walking.
Felista? The unicorn?
If she likes you, I shall trust you. Follow me to my camp, Sheldon.
Thank you, my lady. Can you tell me where we are? Is this Irulan?
This is the Twilight Archipelago. You are farther from home than you imagine.
Lady Danan, who is this stranger?
Everything's fine, Silreal. Felista has found another castaway. This one seems to be a Sheldon.
Wisloth, at your service.
A sea elf, eh? Maybe Solana put you on our path to get us out of our predicament.
A shipwrecked sailor doesn't inspire much confidence.
Anyone can be thrown to the sea in a storm. What is your predicament?
We are castaways, Sheldon. Just like you.
We were on our way to Dragon Mist Island when our ship was caught in a maelstrom and crashed on the reefs north of here. We built new ships, but they were sunk. A tribe of Cyclops controls what comes and goes from the island, from the top of their cliffs.
Cyclops? They can be tricky. Are there not enough of you to oust them from their perch?
Short of climbing the cliff, which would be suicide, the only way to reach them would be for a few brave souls to sail through the maelstrom again and moor on the other side of the island.
I don't know if Providence or the dragons truly put me on this island, but neither Cyclops nor a maelstrom are going to keep me here.
As the true leader of my people, I must thank you for delivering us from the Cyclops. But no, I do not revere you like the others.
I seek no reward, Lady Danann. Only a chance to rejoin my own people.
Silrael and the others think the dragons themselves sent you to save us. They wish you to join us on our journey. Where we are going has never been seen by Shalden eyes.
It is to our mutual benefit to remain together. I won't survive long in this perilous archipelago by myself. And if you intend to reach that Dragon Mist Island you mentioned, you'll need a navigator.
As much as I resent involving a stranger in this, your offer is sensible. Prepare the ship, Wisloth. We're leaving this cursed rock as soon as we can.
And so, Wisloth had chosen to knot his fate with that of Danann and her entourage. He guided them away from the small island of the Cyclops into the treacherous seas of the Twilight Archipelago.
So what were Lady Danann, Silreal, and the others looking for? Why had they gone there in the first place?
I'm glad you're asking, my lord. You see, Wisloth had refrained from asking too many questions at first, as he did not want to antagonize Danann any further. But one night, as he was discussing the art of celestial navigation with the ever-curious Silreal, he finally brought up the subject.
Lady Danann doesn't like me very much, does she?
You have to forgive her, Wisloth. She has much on her shoulders. It's not easy for someone as young as she to lead such an expedition.
What is so important about Dragon Mist Island?
You don't know much about our customs.
You are the first Sylvan ones I have ever met.
Sylvan ones. That's what you call us. I suppose the name fits. We are Solana's children, nature's caretakers, safekeeping the delicate harmony between all living things. The archipelago is a place of powerful magic. Dragon lines cover the islands, all converging towards a single point.
Dragon Mist Island.
Exactly. Lady Danann has been entrusted with conducting a very important ritual there, on the day of the summer solstice, right on top of the...
Shush! I think I heard something. To arms! We're being boarded!
By the goddess, what were those creatures? Orange-skinned brutes. And they're abominations that were equal parts horse and human. Are they demons?
You never heard of orcs and beastmen?
That's what they were. I had heard of them, but had never seen one. How could the wizards defile Solana's harmony like that?
Be thankful they did, my lady. Without the orcs, the demons would have conquered Ashan.
But they were created in the Seven Cities. What are they doing so far from their wizard masters?
Well, they rebelled for a start. But indeed, I never heard of orcs going farther than the Savage Islands or the Ashen Peninsula. I'll have to be very careful from now on. Something tells me they're not here by chance. This was not built by the Sylvan ones, correct?
No, these are Chantery ruins. There are many scattered in the Twilight Archipelago.
These glyphs, they look like a map. A map of the dragon lines. But it looks like some pieces are missing.
Could it be some sort of riddle or puzzle? If that's the case, then what is it pointing at?
These orcs and beastmen. Something is wrong with them.
You mean beyond the obvious?
It's hard to explain. I've met orcs before, and while they were savage and sometimes brutish, they were as intelligent as, say, the average human. These ones are just beasts. Look at them. They don't even talk, they grunt.
One thing is clear to me. We'll have to fight our way through their blockade.
Unless we find another way to escape these waters.
The clues the Shantaries had left on the obelisks were all pointing towards a maelstrom. While there was no telling of where this passage would lead, it seemed as if Shalassa was showing the elves how to escape the orcs' blockade.
Here we go! Hang on, everyone!
Having fought their way through the orc and beastmen's blockade, the elves moored on the shores of a large, lush island. Unfortunately, it wasn't Dragon Mist Island. In order to reach the elemental forge, they needed to sail through a perilous passage, known to elves as the Strait of Malsini.
Malsini means dark soul.
Thank you, Kente. There were 2 small isles located there, surrounded by treacherous reefs. Even their names were ominous. Shadris and Sorleth. The Night Blade and the Grim Death.
Of course. So that's where the old saying comes from. Between Shadris and Sorleth.
Indeed. The elves agreed to stay on the island for a few days to prepare for their voyage. But they were wrong to assume the island itself did not hide any dangers. As the days passed, Wislo started to realize some strange apathy was taking hold of his companions. At first, he dismissed it as mere weariness. The journey had been long and arduous, until one night, when Falista, the unicorn, woke him up. The ships were on fire.
Shalassa's great tides! What are you doing?
It's all right, Wisloth. Everything will be fine.
Fine! You've destroyed all our ships! How are we going to leave the island?
Why leave? This place is perfect. There is harmony here.
What about the ritual of solstice and the elemental forge? Danon, what will your father think?
It doesn't feel that important anymore. All is in harmony. Can't you feel it, Wisloth?
The Danon I know is haughty and abrasive and full of spark and determination. And she would never be so familiar with me. What's wrong with you?
If you don't feel the harmony, maybe you don't have a place here, Wisloth. Maybe you should burn too.
If not for Falista's nimble hooves, Wisloth would have been killed by the bewitched mob. Wisloth wasn't alone in avoiding being spellbound. The other sea elves, working to repair the ships, were also spared. The island was covered with thick bushes and beautiful blue flowers. As he stopped to admire them, Wisloth suddenly understood.
Sylvan elves did not eat meat, and must have been eating these succulent flowers. Like poppy tears, the nectar had affected the elves' minds.
They were indeed the reason for Danon's madness. The sea elves' regime of algae and seafood had protected them. So how do you get rid of a nefarious plant? You do it the human way. Burn it down.
You'll feel better once you stop eating these plants.
The others saw you as a savior, but I always knew what you truly were. You are not one of us, and only want to lead us astray.
Danan, you are not yourself.
Leading this expedition was my mission. I was chosen for it. I sacrificed everything. It was my purpose. Now that I've found harmony, you want to steal it from me too. I won't let you, even if I have to kill you.
Now, that's just great. As if this island wasn't hostile enough.
You're killing my plants! Do you know how long it took me to cultivate them?
Your plants?
The Lurthil, the grey piece found in the mountains of Igchal. Some among my people consume them to shut down the whispers in the dark. And they grow such beautiful flowers, too. But of course they can be dangerous and addictive. You start losing track of the real world in favor of a world of quiet and tranquility. And once you've experienced that world, you do anything not to leave. While your body and mind in the real world wither away.
This whole island is a trap.
My, you're perceptive. These elves were lucky to have a Shalden among them.
Who are you? What do you want?
Ashbeth is my name, and the powers of the Elemental Forge shall be mine and mine alone. Even if that means I have to stop you the old-fashioned way.
How do you feel?
Terrible. I never felt so bad since my coming-of-age party 20 years ago. Look, these last days are a haze. I don't remember everything I've said and done. But I know I've tried to hurt you, and I'm sorry.
You don't need to apologize. You were under the effect of that lethal Lurthil plant. Fortunately, nothing like the waters of Lasir to purify one's blood and mind from such poison. But I have to tell you, this was but a trap to prevent us from reaching the forge.
A trap? Who could...
A dark elf. She told me her name was Ashbeth.
Great harmony.
Did she have silver hair?
Yes. Could it be?
There's only one way to be sure.
Your face? Your eyes? Could it be... Danan?
Mother.
Are you sure? I thought your father killed her.
Is that what Sir Gaul told you? That coward couldn't muster the courage to finish me off.
Why are you here, Mother? You nearly killed us.
Melassa sent me a vision of the elemental forge. I have come here to prevent the ritual of solstice from taking place. But I didn't know you had been chosen for the task. I may have misinterpreted Melassa's will. This changes everything.
How so?
Don't you see? Mother and daughter reunited at last. Come with me, sweet girl. There's nothing for you in Irulan. You'll never escape your father's shadow.
For all his shortcomings, my father never tried to poison me or trick me into killing my friends. You're a monster.
Is that the way to talk to your mother? If I can't change your mind with loving words, then I have other means of persuasion! sweet girl. Stay with Mother. All is peaceful here. We could stay together forever.
Ashbeth is having a taste of her own medicine. What are your plans for her?
I can't kill her, despite all she's done. I suppose I'm truly my father's daughter. We'll leave her here, among her precious plants.
What if she somehow overcomes the Grey Peace and escapes? Don't you fear she'll come back for you?
That's for the dragon gods to decide. As far as I'm concerned, my mother died a long time ago.
We still have to go through that strait. We lost a lot of time on this island. To reach the other side, we'll have to sail near one of those two reefs. We'll have to decide between Shadris and Sorleth.
I trust your judgment, Navigator. I'll support your choice, whatever it is.
Shadris and Sorleth were not just deadly rocks in the middle of the sea. According to legend, Shadris was populated with ape-like creatures with claws as sharp as knives. Sorleth was meant to be the nest of a gigantic six-headed serpent. The monster's appetite knew no bounds. It fell to Wislo to decide which legendary peril his crew would face.
Wislo, listen. There's no telling what is waiting for us at the Elemental Forge. This might be my last opportunity to say it. So, I apologize.
I told you before, you don't have to.
Wait, listen. I have more. Since the day we've met, the way I've treated you, it was neither fair nor polite. You had every right to turn your back on us. But you stayed.
For what it's worth, I understand what you've been through. Among my crew, it's already been decided that I'll take my father's succession and become the next captain, even if there are other places I would rather be.
At long last, Wislo and Danan had reached their destination. And soon, they would finally find the fabled Elemental Forge of Summer. But they both knew unspeakable dangers were waiting for them on the storm-shrouded island of Dragon Mist. For here it was like Asher's very order had been twisted. But whatever awaited, it would be faced together.
Coming here, this whole expedition, I believed it was my moment. My opportunity to prove I was more than my father's daughter. That maybe Solana herself had greater plans for me. That she had chosen me for a reason. When we got stuck on that island, I lost faith in myself. I hated you for being the savior I was failing to be.
I've been giving it a lot of thought lately, and I think we were both mistaken. I was ready to believe the dragon gods had simply forsaken me and abandoned me. But now I believe I was sent here for a reason. I think that reason was to bring you here, so that you can fulfill your own destiny.
What makes you think that?
The dragons have a wicked sense of humor. This, fate, destiny, whatever you call it, this is just a game for them. A game of which we can't hope to comprehend the rules or the stakes. Think about it. What were the chances of you meeting your own mother in the middle of the ocean?
That was indeed pretty unlikely.
The dragons have a plan for us all, Danan. You have yet to fulfill your destiny. It's up to you to stop whatever's going on at the Elemental Forge. I feel in my heart that it's much more important than we suspected.
Forgive me. I did not mean to eavesdrop, but you might be right. These storms are only getting more violent. It's like the whole archipelago is about to be ripped apart. May I suggest we hurry?
As the elves ventured deeper into the thick forests of Dragon Mist Island, the weather only grew worse. They began to realize they were not alone. Orc and Beastmen armies, bearing the sigil of House Chimera, were gathering around the Elemental Forge.
So, you are the ones who have been killing my slaves and attacking my men.
And you are the wizard responsible for this madness.
I am Sabira of the Circle of Nine, Archmage of House Chimera. Be gone, elves, or I'll cut you down like mere blades of grass.
Your magic is fickle, Sabira, and the harmony is eternal. You are an affront to nature and the dragons, and your presence in this forge cannot be tolerated a moment longer!
After a terrible battle, Sabira received a fatal blow. Despite all her might and magic, death was an adversary she could not hope to defeat.
Nobody knows what happened to Sabira after she left Ickham on her great expedition. Are you saying that was her fate?
Maybe, maybe not. I'm a storyteller, not an historian.
So what happened next? Did Danan perform the ritual of solstice?
Did Danan and Wislo kiss and have lots of babies? What? Kente is romantic.
How this story ended? Well, the truth is shrouded in the mists of time and legend. You'll have to decide for yourselves what ending the dragons had chosen for Wislo and Danan.
This is it. The time for me to fulfill my destiny. The ritual of solstice will bring balance and harmony to the magic of the Elemental Forge. Hopefully, it will undo the damage Sabira wrought.
Danan,
Wislo, a Sheldon ship has been spotted south. It's your father's ship. They survived the storm.
Looks like the dragons are sending us a sign. Your people are coming for you. This is where our paths are supposed to part. Farewell.
parts of the dragon's plan, and in due time, we are all brought where we need to be. Danon could never have reached the elemental forge without Wislo. But Wislo didn't know about the ritual of solstice. One is enough to break the harmony, but it can only be created between two. One should not try to guess what the dragons have in store for us. As Wislo once said, only they know their rules. We can only play our part and follow our heart, hoping for the best. At Journey's End, Danon, Wislo, and their companions remained in the Twilight Archipelago as the caretakers of the Forge of Summer. The time had come for them to decide their own fate, together.
I understand now why you chose to tell me the story of a navigator, Ambassador Lasir. I suppose a ship facing a raging storm is a good metaphor for fate.
But never forget, my lord, that a ship needs a captain. The dragon gods have unleashed this tempest around you, but you are still the one manning the helm.
You're right. Second-guessing the dragon's motives will bring us nowhere. Whoever wins this war will be Elrath's chosen one, and will be bestowed the mandate of heaven. I see now that I cannot allow the Empire to be broken into pieces, nor can I allow Seamus to become its ruler. Prepare the armies! It is time to march and destroy him!
Might I suggest, noble Ivan, that you consider hearing everyone's story before attacking? I am certain we all have one to share. I hear you, dear Bluebeak, and defeat Seamus we will. But the way in which this empire is won shall determine its destiny, and its people's fates. You will have to burn Horncrest to the ground to get Duke Seamus to bow.
Duke Ivan has made his decision, not satisfied with his bunk. Are you plotting for his crown?
Anastasia!
Peace! The decision is yours. I have followed you for a decade of war, and shall see this through until its end. But surely the war can wait a few more hours.